go through this. Once again, I do need to stamp your planners. Daisy, put your pencil down, please. Naomi, put your pencil down. Not yet. Let's go through this. Okay, good. Good talk. Okay, so multiplying monomials. The first thing in review that's very, very similar to what we've done in the past is we want to group. Okay? But what's different here is we're going to separate the numbers. Okay? The coefficients, the numbers that are in front of the variables. So we're going to take this 5 and 4, and we're going to put the 5 and 4 in parentheses, and then we're going to put the x2 and the x3 in parentheses. Now let me tell you why. Before, we were just combining numbers, right? The exponents were the same because we were adding and subtracting. Now we're multiplying, and when we're multiplying part of those exponents. Okay? So, 5 times 4 is 20. Then x times 2, we're adding, remember, on this. Because it's not inside parentheses. If it was outside parentheses and we had an exponent, then we would be multiplying. Okay? So, we can combine these because we are multiplying, and they're similar to each other. So, 2 and 3 is 5. Any questions on this? So, multiplying in your parentheses and the exponents you add. Adrian, why don't you go next door and work with her? Okay, next one, a little more complicated. There's just more going on. There's more terms or whatnot. So we're going to take our numbers, -3 and 4, put it in parentheses, and then we're going to put our x's. So notice it's all individual variables. Okay? So we're going to put all our x's in here, x3, x1 in here, then y2, y5 in here. And then we're going to add them. So x3, x1, x4, y2, and 5, y7. -3 times 4, -12. Any questions? Let me see thumbs up or down if we get this. Okay, good. All right, good. Okay, because we have a fraction, no big deal. It's still a number, okay? So we're going to take this fraction, and we're going to take the 6 and put it in here. Now, I'm going to show you something. There is an imaginary 1 in front of here, right? We're not concerned with ones. All we're concerned is with numbers, either fractions and or whole numbers. Okay, so even if we had a 1 in there, it would make no change to the problem, right? Okay, now we're going to group our A's. A3, A2, no A's here. A3, A2. Then our B's. B1, B2, B1, B2, and we have a C2, C2. So remember how you put X4, X3, X2 all together? It's kind of the same thing, except variables. Now the exponents don't matter, okay? So you're grouping numbers, you're grouping variables, okay? After you group them, you're going to add them. First, we're going to multiply this. 6 times a half is 3. Do we understand that, or do I need to go through that? A fraction versus a whole number? So for 6 times a half, we drop a 1 underneath here. We can divide these. 2 goes into 1. 2 goes into 3. So this is 3 over 1, which equals 3. Okay?
So just do a cross?
Mm-hmm. Cross reduce if you can, and then multiply across. So that's how you multiply a fraction times a number. Okay, so we took care of these. Now we're going to add these. A3, A2, A5. B2, B1, remember there's an imaginary 1 there, so 2 and 3, 3, C2 by itself, we're done with the problem. Now, I have a question. Notice we have parentheses here, but we don't have parentheses here. Your final answer shouldn't have any parentheses because it's simplified and it's solved, okay? And when you have a variable next to another variable, what does it mean? What type of math is that?
Multiplication.
Yep, multiplying. But we can't multiply these now because the variables aren't the same and the exponents aren't the same, so we're done, we're finished. So monomials are pretty easy, right? It's just a matter of putting the numbers and then grouping your variables. Okay, multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. Okay, so we have parentheses and we have a 5 on the outside here. So all we have here is distributive property. You remember how we did the subtraction, plus minus, and then the minus we had to multiply it out so we could actually add? This is the same thing. If we have a number outside the parentheses, we have to do distributive property. Okay? So we're going to multiply this 5 times this x2, so 5 times 2 is 10x2. 5 times x, 5x, just combine it. 5 times 4, 20. Any questions? Pretty easy, right? Okay, now, this is in standard form, so we're okay with this. We don't have to make any changes to this. 2, 1, constant. So this one's done. It's simplified. Can't take it any further. Let me jump to this one first, because this one's a little more clear. Notice we have a variable outside here. Okay? Where here we just have a constant, and we're multiplying it across. Now we have a constant and a variable. So the first thing we're going to do is set the problem up. Same thing, distributive property, and we're just going to show all this. So 4a times a2b, because there's a plus, so we're multiplying by this term. So this term is going to go right here. Are we clear so far? Look where our plus is. We're multiplying this term by 4a, right? So it's not just 4a times a2, it's 4a times a2b, because a2b is what the term is. Are we clear? So we take this term and we put it down here, okay? Then we're 4a again with this term inside the parentheses. Are we clear so far? So our first multiplication is terms. So basically you know that's going to be your first term, that's going to be your second term inside parentheses, 4a on the outside. So basically us writing it this way is writing the math that's happening. Now how do we do it? Now that we're here, we're going to follow our same steps up here, which is we're going to get all our numbers together, and then we're going to get all our variables together. So we're going to group. So we have 4a, we're going to put 4a. Oh, by the way, when we set these up and separate these terms, this plus, this is one side of the problem, and this is the second side of the problem. We can't combine yet, okay? So this plus is still going to carry down, because we're solving these terms and these terms right here. So now we're going to multiply out. Well, this one's really not going to do anything because it's 4a times 4a, 4a, but there's an a2 here, right? So this becomes a3. So 4a and then 4a2, right? That's a3. So this comes down here. The b comes down because there's nothing else to simplify here. Then we have the 4 and the 2 on this side. Here's the 4 and the 2. The 4 and 2 grouped it together, and then a by itself, and then b by itself. So then we multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. The a is by itself. The b is by itself. Do we see that? Let's go through this one more time. So we have a constant next to a variable, which means we have two terms inside here. So we got to multiply this by these terms and this by these terms. Okay? So that's our next step. Now we stay with me, don't write yet. So 4a times all this, and then 4a times all this. Okay? Now, from there, we want to group, because we have the distributive property down, so now we can start grouping our stuff together. So we just group this side. Notice we don't put the 4 and the 2 together, or the 4a and the 4a. So we're just dealing with this. The 4 is by itself. We group our a's together, so a and a2, a and a2, and then b. Okay? So all I did was separate these. Do we see that? Okay. Same thing with the next one, 4a and 2b2. This is going to be 4 times 2 in parentheses, and then a by itself, and then b2 by itself. Then from here, we can go ahead and solve. 4 is going to be all by itself. We can add our a's, a1 and a2, a3. The b is by itself. Then 4 times 2 is 8. The a is by itself. The b is by itself. We're done with the problem. This is the final answer. This is simplified. Okay? Now notice, look at our b's, look at our a's. Because of this 4, because of the variable, we actually can't combine those things. That is the simplified answer. Okay, let's go to E. This is the same scenario here, okay? We have this term multiplied by this term and multiplied by this term. So the plus and minus is what separates the terms, okay? So I'm going to take this information and put it in parentheses. I'm going to have the 3x on the outside. And I'm going to take this again and multiply it by the negative y. Okay? So these steps are the same. There's just more going on because we have two variables in the exponent there. Okay, from there, we could go ahead and start doing the math after we have the terms broke down. Okay? So we can start combining numbers. Once again, this is the midway point of the problem. Stay with me. This is the midway point of the problem. So we're going to combine our numbers 2 and 3 in parentheses, and then x2 and x1. x2 and x1 in parentheses, and then we have a y left over. So does everyone understand this part? We're just okay, well we did the same thing on all of them so far. We're grouping. We're taking our numbers 2 and 3, putting in parentheses. Then we're taking our x2 and our x1, putting in parentheses. We're taking our y and putting in parentheses. So we group this problem, right? Do you see it? Okay, we're going to do the same thing here. So we're 2. What's in front of this that we can't see?
1.
Yeah. So 2 and negative 1 is going to go right here. We only have one x, so x2, and we have two y's, y and negative y. This is just y and y, because we have two y's. Okay, now we can go ahead and solve for this. 2 times 3 is 6, x2, x1, x3, y by itself. Now, look what's going to happen here. 2 times negative 1, negative 2. Okay? x2 by itself, there's two y's, y2, y2. So y2. Okay, do we see that? There's something a little different that happens on this one. Okay? And that's, if we have a negative on the outside there, we still have a number here, so we have to remember to group that number. If we forgot, we actually wouldn't have got that right. Right? Good talk. Okay, so simplifying 2 and 3 y's, y3, 2 and 1, y by itself, and then 2, negative 1, negative 2 are x's, x2, y2. Okay? 1 and 1, remember? Value of each. Daisy, stay with me, please. Okay, are we good so far? Now we get in the toughest part, which is the FOIL. Okay? You will use this all the way through Algebra 4. Every single math class you have from here on out, you will use this. Okay? It's really not that hard. Let me explain what this means. First out, inner, last. Okay? So that means, you know how it's fairly easy to do distributive property, right? We take a number and we multiply everything that's across. Well, FOIL is now taking multiple things and multiplying it out. Because we have two sets of things inside here, right? We have an x and we have a plus 2. So we're going to take this x, the very first step, first, and we're going to multiply it by out and in. So x minus x, and x minus 5 multiplied by. Okay, so we're multiplying it by the first one, we're multiplying it by the last one, and then we're multiplying the inner ones, and then the last one. And that's what FOIL stands for. So first, out, inner, last. That's what FOIL means. Do we see that? If you remember FOIL, and you remember the steps, believe it or not, when we get over here and whatnot, it's all the same thing. It's all the same steps. There's just more going on. There's just more terms. Are we clear? Okay, so let's start to do it. Now, we're actually multiplying x's, so something different happens here, okay? Because we are multiplying. So, we're going to rewrite this out. This is going to be x times 5 in parentheses, and then 2 times x times 5 in parentheses, right? Because we're taking the 2, multiplying everything that's in here. Daisy, stay with me. And then taking this and multiplying it by here. Trust me, if you don't stay plugged in here, this class is going to get super hard towards the end. Okay, from here, we're going to now group. We're going to group or multiply out. So x and x, x and x, and x and negative 5. We can combine those, right? And then 2 and x, we can combine those, and 2, negative 5, we can combine those. Then from here, it's just a matter of adding everything together. Those are two x's, x2, 5x, 2x. That's going to simplify to 7x and 10 at the bottom. Any questions? Okay, so first to the outer one, and then inner to last. And that's what FOIL stands for. Basically, it just gets, there's just more things going involved here, or when we start to get up here, you'll start to see that. Okay.
Do E again?
E?
Yeah.
Well, E is just distributive property. It's this terms times 3x. This times this, and then this times y. Okay? Then from here we start grouping. 2 and 3, 2 and 3, our x's and our y. Okay? And then go ahead and solve them. 2 times 3, x3, y by itself. Negative 2, x2, y2. Okay, looking at this one right here. Or let's go to this one right here. Anytime that you have an exponent of 2, remember what a base is. It's times itself, right? So if we're 3 to the power of 2, what's our answer? What's the answer to this?
9.
Yes, because it's 3 times 3, right? This is the same thing. So what we can do is when we have to the power of 2, we just write it twice. And then from there, we can go ahead and group because it's already separated. So we're going to put our x's together. What are you doing? You know I'm recording the lesson, right?
Not bad. I try to keep myself awake.
So we're going to put the x's together. So x and x times x, and then x times 5, 5x, then 5x, 5 times x, 5x, and 5 times 5, 25. Do we see the FOIL and what happens there? All I did was write the step out here. So this is this times this. Okay? That's the f. Okay? The first numbers. Okay? And then O, right? F-O. So what the O is the first one to the last one. Or the outer one. The very last one. Make sense? Inner. The two inner ones. So 5 times x, and then last, whatever's left over is the 5. So it goes from here to here, or better yet, let's say here to here, and then from here to here, and from here to here. That's FOIL. Okay? The reason why we use that is to make sure that we get it right. It's an easy thing to remember. So once we multiply these out, x times x in parentheses, and then x times 5, 5x, then 5 times x, 5x, and then 5 times 5, 25. Okay, now follow me one more time. What is 5 times x? What is 5 times x? Yes. And what is x times 5? Yes. So it's this times this, x times x, this times 5, 5x, and then 5, the inner, 5 times x, 5x, and then 5 times 5, 25. Now, let me tell you why we use FOIL. Once we use FOIL, typically these two terms in the middle we can combine. So it gives us an outside term, two outside, a first and a last, and a middle. And usually the middle we can combine. Okay? So this is 5x and 5x, 10x. We didn't have to do anything with the 25, and all we had to do with the x is square them. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. The next three are probably the most complicated you're going to see when it comes to FOIL. Okay? So we start baby steps, and then we get into what it really is, how you're really going to see problems. So let's go through this. Okay, Mindy, ready?
No.
Stay with me, come on. I actually have it all written out. So this is what the F is, right? First term by the outer term. Or excuse me, first term by first term. So this 3A2 by A2. That's all I wrote right there. Follow me so far? So FOIL. First term, first term, first term. I'm multiplying those two together. We got the F down, right? Now you see it? This right here. This is the first term. This is the second term, right? Or the first term in the second set. So we're taking this and we're multiplying by this. That's F. Okay? Now we're going to do the O. So in other words, the outer. This one is the outer. Okay? So we're going to take this same term right here and we're going to multiply by the outer. Okay? So this times this, and then we do the O, Daisy. This times this. So we get there. Okay? So now we have to do the inner, right? We have to do the I. So we're going to take this minus b times the A2. Minus b times A2. And then the last one, or the last ones. This one, this one. So if you remember, first is the first ones. Okay? Outer means the first one times the outer one. And then inner, the two inner ones. And then last, the inner with the last one. Make sense? And it's always the same. Okay, so from here, after we have this done, we can start solving, okay, and grouping our stuff. So look what happens here. This is 3 times 1, which is what? 3, right? And then A, 2 times 2 is 4. Now we can do this one. This is 3 times negative 2, so it's negative 6. Nothing's happened with the A2. The A2 is by itself, and the B is by itself. There was nothing to multiply there because we didn't have another term inside here. Okay, this one, all we have to do is put an alpha order. Okay, so it's going to be A2 and then B. So negative on the outside because the negative times a positive is a negative, right? So we're negative A2B. All we have to do is rearrange this. We just have to turn it around and put the A first. Alphabetic. So when it comes to math and when we're doing everything, you know how standard form goes like this? This is one of those things. Alpha is then next. Okay, so same thing here. we're negative negative here, so that's going to turn that positive. The number is, and they're both b's, so it really doesn't matter. But it's a negative times a negative, which turns it positive 2. And then b1, b2, b2, because it's inside parentheses. Do we see that? Okay, so once we have this done, okay, all we have to do at this point is now separate our terms or simplify. So notice, 3a4, there's nothing for us to simplify here. Remember what I told you about FOIL. What happens in the middle?
I thought that
Daisy, I'm recording.
I know.
So see how these two terms are in the middle and we add them together? That's what's going to happen here. Look, these are the same, aren't they? Stay with me, please. So we're going to take these two terms and we're going to combine them. So we're negative 6a, 2b, and a negative 1 here. So negative 6, negative 1, negative 7. The rest comes down here. So this step is actually the easiest step. It's just adding these two things in the middle and leaving the outer and the inner, and we're finished with the problem. Which is the same thing that happened right here. See, we had 5x and 5x. We just combined the x's.
Mr. I'll have to do this later.
What's negative 6 plus negative 1? See how these are the same? Negative 6a2b, negative a2b. Look, the variables are exactly the same, right? So that means we can just combine the negative 6 and the negative 1. Then the 3a4 and the 2b comes down.
Wait, isn't it a negative and a positive?
We're adding now at this point. We multiplied out. There are no parentheses there.
Oh.
Same thing here. Look. See how we took care of all the parentheses? We were x times x, and then 5x, and then 5x, and then 25. This is now adding 5x, 5x. So if those two were negative, it'd be negative 10x. So it's adding and subtracting at the last step. Okay, let's go through this one. Same thing is going to happen here. We're still FOIL. So we're going to take this x and we're going to multiply it by x2. That's the f. Okay? And then we're going to take the x and we're going to multiply it by everything in here. Now, notice something. This is the term. You only actually have two terms inside the parentheses. Okay? So now we're going to multiply this by this outer one. So we take all this information right here, put it in parentheses on the x on the outside. That's the same exact thing. All we're doing is rewriting it. Okay, same thing. Now we're going to do our inners. We're going to take 2 and we're going to multiply it by everything in here. So 2 multiplied by everything in here. Are we clear?
Why?
Let's go through it again. X times x2. Okay, x and x2. We took care of these. Now we're going to take the x times this. So it's x times this. The only thing that's left over is 2 times this, because we already took care of this one. So look what happens. It's x times x2. That's right there. Then it's x times this right here, right? And then it's this one right here times this one right there. And that's FOIL. Same exact thing. The only thing that's different in this one is that there were, no, not really. It's still the same here, still the same here. Your two terms inside here, you're still two terms inside here. Okay, from here, once we get to this part, now notice, none of this part changes, right? Because that's all one term right there. That's 5x plus 4. So once that's inside there, all we have to do is group them. So x2, x2, that's x times x2. And then from here, we can start separating this stuff out. Look, x times x, x2. There was nothing else to multiply there. Then it's x times 4, 4x. Then from here, 2, 2x, 2x2, 2 times negative 5, negative 10, 2 times 4, 8. So distributive property out. Now remember, in FOIL, what's going to happen is you're going to have things that combine in the middle. Now this one's a polynomial. What happens in a polynomial, it's not a trinomial. It's not just what's in the middle. You're going to have two sets now. You're going to have this right here and this right here that you can combine. And you're going to have this right here and right there that you combine. So you can combine your x2s and your x1s. Notice the outside will not change. Okay? There's nothing to combine with the 8. The constants by itself and the x's after we multiply them are done. We're finished. So we write this as x3, x2, and x1. Then we're going to combine our 2's, keeping it in standard form. Negative 5 and 2, negative 3x. Then 4x, negative 10x, negative 6x. Step out for a minute, just real quick. Okay.